This is Half Serious, where we dig into the things that keep us going habits, hobbies, hell, even bad ideas, and the hard crap that nearly breaks us. Because life doesn't pull punches, and somewhere between the chaos and the craft, the dichotomy of life teaches us a lesson. We laugh, we curse, and we keep freaking going. So pour a drink or start your marathon, and let's get into it. This week, we talked to Keith and how he has used religion to cope with unspeakable loss and other hardships. Since I am what I call an agnostic at best, we also use this time to have good, open conversation about different belief systems. I'm a huge proponent of everyone finding healthy coping mechanisms, and religion can serve as that for some. However, for me, it never will, but that's okay because there's plenty of other ways to cope. I'm also not advocating agnosticism or atheism. I'm merely advocating for good conversation and finding out what works for you. Keith is always open for a good conversation about this stuff, and that's one of the things that I highly respect about him. I just think if we can't have healthy conversations respecting each other, how can we be these good people that we advertise to be? We're talking to Keith today,
Yeah.
from which I've known for a few months now, gotten the pleasure to work with, and he's had the annoyance to work with me. So people that have worked with me know what I'm talking about. I have enjoyed our conversations because we have a difference of opinion on a lot of stuff. Religion, I don't know, politics is just good conversation, topic to
Yeah.
topic, but abortion, all that other good stuff.
All the things that you typically wouldn't talk about at work. Yes, of
Yeah,
course.
if it's off the table, we're like, that sounds like a great topic to
Yeah,
talk about
yeah.
today. That being said, you want to kind of introduce yourself and give a little bit of a background and
I kind of suck at that, but
good. This is the podcast where we suck at things.
yeah, and that's okay. Military guy, Army for 15 years or so. Got out the Army. I guess the unique aspect of me is got out the Army. I felt God was calling me to go into ministry. And so instead of ETSing or retiring, I chose to just leave and just ETS, just say, hey, this is my end of my contract and I'm out now. For me, to my last duty station in Hawaii, I was starting to get deeper in my faith journey, if you will. And a lot of prayer. I was in seminary at the time. Now, actually, I was getting my bachelor's degree in Christian counseling and theology. One day, out of the blue, it was just like, it's time to get out. I want you to go on ministry. You just don't know where you're going to end up at. And I just trusted that he would take care of us. And sure enough, landed a job that basically tripled my pay. Ended up going to Kansas after that and started my quote unquote ministry journey.
So, I always describe myself agnostic at best
Yeah.
because I teeter. What would you describe that as? Because to me, I'd just be like, it's a gut feeling, or it usually means that things in your environment that you're picking up on that you need to act upon, things that you don't realize you're picking up on. You describe it as a calling from God or whatnot. How would you differentiate the two, or do you think it's all God?
Yeah, I think there's a little agnosticism in everybody, believers alike, Christians, Catholics, Buddhists, whatever religion people choose. There's an aspect where you just don't know. And there's something. This just can't all be coincidental or random, or at least we would hope not, because then that would change the course of how we view life. We just don't know. But I believe those of the Christian faith are more like, okay, there's things that we don't know, but we're going to trust that what this word says in the Bible is accurate. And so we're going to accept the definition given to us out of this Bible. Just that some would say the tinglings of the hair on the back of the neck type of thing that tells you to not go into that room because it's booby trapped. But for me, I understand because the Bible actually gives a description of what that should feel like. And so now I have a point of reference to say, it's not just Keith, it's not just my gut, it's not just science, it's actually, as described in the text, this thing that's supposed to provide insight that doesn't make sense to us.
Did you grow up believing in God and all that stuff?
No, I grew up ratchet. I grew up, I don't know. It's weird. I would describe my faith relationship with God as a kid is like, yeah, everybody believes in God, right? Like my mom and dad, or my mom believes, but we never went to church. So that was weird. My dad did not, mainly because Jesus was a white dude and he just couldn't get down with that because he's from Detroit, 50s, 60s, that
Yeah.
era of a
But
guy.
even, and granted, I haven't read the Bible back to back or anything like that, front to back, not back to back, just back to back. I guess.
Back to back.
But,
Revelations.
but Isn't Jesus supposed to be from Jerusalem, so wouldn't he be of the tanner nature?
Yeah, he
So it
would,
wouldn't be
but what my dad couldn't get was, like, when he went to church as a kid,
yeah,
the church that he went to, Jesus was this white dude,
yeah,
so he discounted everything in the
mhm.
Bible because for him, he was just like, doesn't quite much make sense."
That's a good argument,
It
you know?
is.
I mean, it's like if you guys are gonna change the image, then
What else
why are you
did you
not
change?
changing
I was super ratchet as a kid. My faith system was as weak as a wet paper bag. I mean, I remember as a kid, "Hey, God, if you make that can move out there in the parking lot, if I
Mhm.
turn around and count to 10, I turn back around, it's not there, then I'll know it's real." Kid you not, that actually happened.
The can moved?
The can was gone at
Mm,
17. Now, it could have been a figment of my imagination, but in that moment as a
yeah.
teenager, I was like, "Oh, this is real," right?
Or it was a ghost.
But I was yeah,
Maybe not the
or a
Holy Ghost.
ghost or whatever, right? I didn't know, but it
It was
creeped
some
me out
homeless
enough.
dude that walked up.
Yeah, or some homeless dude that kicked the can. I don't know, but as a kid, I'm like, "Okay, that's creepy. We're just gonna count it as God exists."
Yeah,
But as far as, like, actually following the things in the Bible or even reading the Bible, no.
yeah,
I was still out there thinking about chicks and having sex and
yeah,
listening to rap music and trying to be a thug. All the things that were going on in the '90s, yes,
yeah.
that was me. Um, all the way up until even when I joined the army. Like, I totally joined because I was about to commit murder. And it was just like I had 2 options, like, deal with this dude in high school that I was having beef with
Yeah.
by shooting him or, like, choosing an alternative path.
Why were those your only 2 options?
'Cause that's how my mind was wired. I was very I guess, like, on that edge of just extreme I'm a very extreme person. My
Mhm,
wife still tells me that today, and it's definitely a problem, but when I get fixated on something, I only see 2 options. Either I'm gonna do it or I'm not,
mhm,
So it's just like, either I stay here in Huntsville and shoot this guy and kill him, or I leave. And so when I went to the recruiter, I was like, "Hey, I wanna shoot people in the face. What's up?"
yeah,
Because I was just super angry and just bitter, typical hurt dog, hurt male, because the girlfriend didn't work out type of thing. And my recruiter was like, "You're kind of too smart for that, but you can go jump out of planes and potentially do cool stuff like that." And I was like, "Yeah, let's do that." So
yeah.
yeah.
So what was the trigger with the dude that made you so mad?
Oh man, girlfriend of like 4 years, like the high school
Yeah,
sweetheart.
high school drama stuff.
Yeah, she was a grade lower than me, and, when I went off to college, found out, she had cheated on me with him or whatever, and I was like, "Bet." And so I left college, came home, and was preparing to enact my plan of typical wannabe thug stuff.
There's I will say it's so odd to me how many people there are, even in my high school back in the day when we had, our shooting stuff, it was it's just a factual thing like, "Oh, yeah, well, no, I did it because of this," and it's such a teenager thing, and that is such a minuscule problem for you to
Yeah.
solve it this way,
Yeah.
but that's how they're wired, like, "No,
Yeah.
it's immature minds," and, like, "No, this is it, violence is the end, I have to do this." Okay, you're thinking about this second. So what a drastic change of path then. Is anybody in your family in the military?
My dad was,
Oh, that's right.
but he wasn't about that life for real. Like I think I realized that once I got in the service and I understood the rank and understood the things that I was volunteering to do. Going airborne, being a paratrooper, that's not anybody could be a soldier. Then to be a paratrooper, there's levels to it, right? Like you volunteer and say, "Hey, yeah, send me, I'll jump out of a plane and be the first one in
Yeah.
combat," type of thing. My dad was a comms guy. He did 3 years and got out. And so he wasn't a lifer. Like I think we all have the same struggles. And going back to
Mhm.
even your high school statement, as dudes as a teenager is like, "This is the love of my life, the woman I'm gonna marry," at
Yeah.
15 or 13, because 'cause you're so amped up on testosterone and emotions that you don't really know how to communicate,
Mhm.
that when it breaks, you break. There's probably a lot of good guys out there that would've been great husbands and great fathers that, because they had trauma in 5th grade, are now dirtbags.
They let it define them.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
epidemic.
Yeah, I agree. So when you left out of the military, went to, like, a school to be a minister? Or
So before I got out, I was pastoring at a church in Guam. And so I was already in my bachelor program online, learning all the things and the church history, all the
so there's,
stuff.
like, a degree you have to get
Yeah.
before you're
Well, that raises a whole different issue. Like I'm so anti-school, I'm so anti-seminary. All the things that I was doing because I felt called into ministry. Later it was revealed that God was like, I meant the opposite. Like, you didn't need school, you didn't need any of that. You just needed to live a righteous life.
God called you to do all this stuff and you end up going to school and then it ended he was like,
Yeah.
"Psych, you didn't have to
Yeah.
do that."
So here I am, right? I'm doing the traditional path of
Uh-huh.
what quote unquote ministry looks like. I was working at a Calvary Baptist church while I was deployed to Guam, and they ordained me as a pastor there. I was actually pastoring at a Chinese Christian church. Imagine that, because their pastor had to go back to Taiwan. A whole bunch of weird things going on with that. But I'm out there pastoring there, black dude, Chinese church from Alabama, and they speak Chinese. So when I gave my sermons, it was through interpreter, which completely was throwing me off because I'm like, how are we
Yeah.
going to really connect here?
Yeah, they're gonna
Um,
give the same infliction that
yeah,
you're
but
giving, yeah.
I had some serious life changing experiences at that church that kind of validated I was going in the right path.
Mm,
A lady Chinese people are very stoic. Like, they
yes,
they
yeah.
don't do a lot of emotion stuff. I guess that stuff is kept indoors. I'm doing a series on the Holy Spirit and kind of describing it and teaching about him and how it's supposed to work based off of what the word says. And this lady comes up one day after the sermon crying, bawling her eyes out in Chinese, right? And I'm like, sorry, just got your
Yeah.
hands up looking like Will Ferrell. But I prayed, and we went to the back room with the deacon and another lady, kept it all formal. And, um, I prayed and opened up the word, and I said, God, I don't know how to help this lady, but I'm serving as a pastor. I don't even know what she's saying,
Mhm.
because the translator hasn't even started talking yet. And then, like in a movie, subtitles flew through my brain. In the back of my eyes, I could see what she was saying, and I understood what she was saying. And I think when you have experiences like that validate your faith, it's like you can't go back. You
Yeah.
can't really shake it, because then I open up the word and it's the exact area of scripture that I needed to be at to comfort this woman in her time of distress. And so that really validated, yeah, Keith, you're going into ministry. God has big plans for you, right? I'm sorry, you can't tell me today that God isn't real, because I've seen the things from scripture come to life today, and it shakes you and it
Mm.
changes you.
I'll say from, like, my perspective of stuff, but reading the Bible to me is kinda like tarot card readings. To not to downplay as like, if I'm to pull a card out of the deck and do a reading,
Yeah.
right? I can apply it to almost any situation because it's how you interpret it, and you're gonna interpret it to how it applies to you. And I'm not saying that's I say a lot of this podcast is not absolute, but
Yeah.
that's how I interpret
Yeah.
a lot of this
And
stuff.
and I've come to kind of matured in my walk. Like,
Mm,
old Keith would have been like, "You blasphemous heathen, you over
yeah,
there
yeah.
talking about how dare you
But then
compare the Bible to tarot cards."
how do you convince people otherwise? Well,
Right.
not convince them, but at least open their mindset, and that's why I do
Yeah.
like talking to you about this because you're not offended by the thought of somebody believing something different than you. It's more like, "Hey, well, this is why I think what I think,"
I think that's
and
the
it's not
problem with
offensive.
a lot of believers today. We forget that we once too did not have faith in God for real. We forget we once too and still don't understand everything. So
Yep.
we
Like, if
take
you were
this
just to
haughty
tell me,
position.
"Oh, you're going to hell," I'm gonna shut off from listening
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah, no, I think sadly, I mean, from the stories of old, and not to do a whole dissertation here, but,
Mhm.
even if we take a story that every child has probably heard with Moses and the parting of the Red Sea and the plagues. When he came to Pharaoh, he pulled out his staff and laid it on the ground, and it turned into a snake. And what did the Pharaoh say? I got magicians that could do that. And what do? They came out and turned theirs into a snake. And then Moses' snake ate theirs. But it didn't change anything for the Pharaoh. And he wasn't like, oh, cool, you can do a couple of tricks, like anybody can do that. And
Mhm.
there's countless incidents in scripture where somebody does something that could be considered a miracle or something from God who was obviously not that. There were sorcerers, magicians. Yeah, I think, and so when you say like, oh, it's like a tarot card.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see how somebody could think that, because if misappropriated or used the wrong way, it could be exactly like that. Pastors do it all the time. How do you think you have these mega $1 million pastors out here convincing people to give them their life savings so that they can get a healing?
I'm like, I didn't know what tithing was till maybe, like, 4 years ago. I'm like, "What the heck is that?" I can understand donations to things that you believe in, whatever they
Yeah.
are, but to feel obligated for your religion to that and I'm not downplaying people that do good for you, but that I would be mad if I went to somewhere and they made me feel like a piece of crap because I didn't give money. Of
Misinformation
course, I guess they do at
campaigns.
Starbucks if you don't tip too.
Everywhere that has a
But
gratuity.
I guess nowadays yeah, that's
I'm
crazy.
gratuity hurt, church. I'm sorry. I can't. I'm sorry. If God wants me to tip him for a
Yeah,
blessing,
yeah.
then this might not be the right church. I think it's easier for human beings to have a check the box as to our faith, especially if the guarantee on the end is heaven. And if it's as simple as showing up on a Sunday and 10% of my money and saying nice
Yeah.
things on occasion and I get to go to heaven, like, heck yeah, sign me up. And so you have a lot of the people in sadly in the faith that live in that very base way of thinking that they probably don't even read the Bible. They just whatever the pastor's talking about. I paid. I came in my nice clothes. I donated to a homeless person on a Wednesday, and then that's
Talk
it.
Jesus,
I talk
whatever,
about Jesus.
I've said this to you before, I can't remember the quote from some show with Matthew McConaughey of all, but, we were in there at that tent, and it's like if fear of going to hell is the only thing that's making somebody a good person, that person's a piece of shit. So I think that it is hard so let's say that all this stuff exists. It is hard for me to believe that a being that is supposed to be that almighty and everything is gonna be that egotistical to say, "Okay, you're gonna go to hell if you don't believe in me," even if this person is extremely and is an extremely good person and gives to a lot of communities, helps out, doesn't harm anybody, follows, whatever commandments just because they're a good person in
Yeah,
general. But then you have other people that don't follow the commandments or, you know, morality to a degree, but they do tithe and they do go to church and they do say, "Oh, I believe in you," but yet they're the ones that are gonna be going to heaven. Like that part is where you really lose me. Not you, but I mean
yeah,
just like the bulk of a lot of the Christianity stuff loses
yeah.
me.
It's that misinformation campaign that's worked so well in our society for hundreds of years. But in the word, it says something along the lines that God lets the sun shine on both the good and the evil person. Until the end of time is when judgment will take place. But he doesn't show favoritism. He doesn't say, well, because you don't believe in me, then you can't have a nice life. Right. And so it's a level of self awareness of our level of ratchetness that we're to come to realize, like, crap, if you are saying that I've given you a way out
Mhm,
because I really don't deserve it, it's more of a gratitude of saying, "Yeah, no, I, as a human being, am not that great of a person. I'm egotistical. I'm a misogynist." And we don't like to
mhm,
classify ourselves as in the reality of it all because we're not in jail. We hadn't done a major crime. But in reality, morals are all speculative and
mhm,
subjective. I think if I tell you some stories from my life and the levels of things that I've gone through as a soldier, being in Afghanistan, my wife, my kids, all the failures and everything like that. I know you talk a lot
so
in your podcast about like coping mechanisms and how do
yeah.
you overcome obstacles, but I've had some obstacles.
So what would be one that would have wavered your faith or that did waver your faith?
I think the biggest thing that jacked me up was when my son died. So I married in to with my wife, and I just got back from deployment, and we did the normal post deployment thing. Next thing you know, she's pregnant, and it's a boy. So my first son, right?
Yeah,
Like I love my stepson, but to me it was like a big deal to have my own son, which
mhm,
was sad in and of itself if I really play it all back. But that just shows you my mindset at the time. Well, I decided to get out of the Joint Special Operations community and focus on the family and go to the conventional army side of the house. And we get to Fort Stewart, Georgia. She goes into preterm labor at 23 weeks. My son dies 8 days later. So I attributed it based on my limited knowledge as a 25-year-old, I think at the time,
you were
that
young.
God is punishing me because of all the people that I had a part in killing in Afghanistan. That's part of my job, particularly with being a targeting guy, dropping bombs on houses and doing raids that end up with more dead bodies. And so I thought, oh, it's because I killed all these people that God is punishing me by taking my son because he died in my hands and he was the size of my hand. I'm not that tall. My hands are tiny, like the little pamper. I can still visualize it today. And his entire hand fit around my index finger. it was sad. It hurt. We
Did
stayed in
you
the Ronald
know?
McDonald
Did you know that he was gonna pass, or did you have some
No,
belief
we
that
had some hope.
I mean, what did the doctors tell you, like, "Hey, there's some hope that he might live?"
Yeah, they were optimistic, um, as much as they could be, because when you have a baby born that early, they're like,
Mhm.
but, the hard part about that whole scene was being at this Ronald McDonald House, you're surrounded by other people going through the same thing, and, the wife were praying, and we're like, "Maybe this is like David and Bathsheba," when David, had sent her husband off to war to die so that he could, because he had sex with his wife. Like, he caused her to be an adulteress, right? And they had a son, Jonathan, who, dies, and so maybe this is this. Maybe we're being punished because of the infidelity. Because at this point in our marriage, infidelity had already happened. And
And you guys
so
had already kinda said, like, "Oh, this has happened," and then you had your son, or
yeah, yeah, like, we had moved past it,
Mhm.
um, and yeah, and so that was rough,
How come you
and
weren't angry over that? I mean, were you angry with, your God or your religion because of it?
I think a part of it is a mixture of guilt and anger
Mm,
because we're praying in the Ronald McDonald House. We have this hope that he's gonna pull through and grow up to be, for me anyway, a football player at Michigan, go blue.
go
Yeah.
green.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that's what's gonna happen. And it's gonna be
Yeah,
this miraculous healing. We're praying over him and all these
yeah.
other things. And he dies. Oh, and it make it worse. This lady comes by and she's like, "Hey, my son, he's healed. He's gonna do great. Y'all are too. I've been praying for you guys. It's all gonna work out. God bless you guys." So you have all this hope built up and then the ultimate letdown. And so it was part guilt. I was like, this is on me. I did this. And God is punishing me because I did this. Again, this was my immature phase of
Yeah.
my relationship and my faith. And it took years for me to comprehend that that's not how God works. I accepted that as reality because shortly after that, my wife was told that she could never get pregnant again because she had cancers, right? And so she started seeking God much harder after that. And for me, I kind of went numb. And then, I kept praying, I kept going to church, I kept fighting through it. I think I compartmentalized it. I put it in the same tough box with all the other weird stuff that happened in Afghanistan, all the bad experiences, that tough box that sits way, way back in the attic of your mind. I just stuck it there and just kept driving on because I think the soldier mentality kicked in and it's just like death happens.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do with that but keep pushing, right? And so she was super depressed, but then turned focused in on God.
How long did it take her to have that turnaround of being depressed, but then focusing on her religion?
Probably about 90 days. She had like 90 days worth of mourning and grief before she got really serious
Mm.
in the Bible and in prayer and just realizing like
How much for you?
yeah, she was for me.
Yeah, then how much for
Oh,
you? Longer?
years. Years. I mean like
Ti
years.
So since she found that before you, or was there some tension between you 2 then? But
Of
you hadn't
course.
yet found that?
Oh yeah. It was awful. Yeah, it was bad. Um 'Cause then I felt like I wasn't living up to the righteous standards of God, or as Southern Baptists, God with a GAWD. I wasn't there yet, and I hadn't arrived yet because I was still smoking and I
Mhm.
was still doing soldier stuff, still kinda now regretting leaving the Special Operations Command because now I'm over here at Fort Stewart. Then I started looking at the Army as it sucks because it's just like, what are we doing here playing soldier? And then, like, even when my son passed, we didn't even know they had anything for when your kid dies. So we ended up having to get him cremated because we didn't know? So I'm just
Mhm.
frustrated, kind of angry, not talking to anybody, not dealing with PTSD. I'm still having nightmares and all these things. I'm just kind of a zombie. And so I'm trying to walk on eggshells in my marriage by doing all the right things and saying all the right things.
Mm.
But as the word would say, nothing really about me was changing. And so it was just this long front for like 5 years of not really having dealt with the trauma of losing my son or all the things that happened in Afghanistan. And I think it's because we had a highlight reel. In the midst of that, because we were still praying, even though I was praying as a zombie, I'm just being obedient at this time,
Mhm.
right? We get pregnant again. That wasn't supposed to happen. She had cancer, and it's a boy. okay, God is real. So now I'm back on this high horse, right? Like that was
Yeah.
a really low drop in the roller coaster. But now we're pregnant again when that wasn't supposed to happen. And I get a son. What do you think happens next? He stops talking, autism. So that was hard because now we're in speech pathology and now we're doing all these things. And now my son is not going to be this cool Michigan football player. Now I'm sad again. And now the roller coaster of life hits again. It was at that point that I started to get much deeper in my faith. Between the loss of my firstborn son and the gaining of my third child and his diagnosis with autism was when kind of like I shifted. And I was like, God, I'm tired of trying to figure this out. What am I doing wrong? Now me and him are having that anger conversation. And I started reading and I set on a journey to read the whole thing front to back and pray through the whole thing and just kind of figure it out. And I think that was that breaking point of realizing I'm tired of the fight in
Mhm.
life. You know, is suicide the way out? Like they'll get the check from the army, they'll have money. It was a really ignorant way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
But to me, I was at that bottom of like, I quit.
Yeah, don't know what to do.
Certain pastors might say that was when you got to your breaking point,
Mhm.
of being humbled on your knees. But like, what do I do to not be humbled all the time? Because it's getting old.
But
Yeah.
isn't that a way of it feels like a bullying into believing kinda
Mm-mm.
thing?
Oh, like he was doing these things
Yeah,
intentionally.
like, if
Yeah.
that was what got you that's what got you
Yeah.
to
I
be
mean,
religious, it seems, or, it seems like a bully's way to,
Yeah,
do
it
it.
would definitely be a bully's way of going about it, but being misinformed, yeah,
Yeah.
that's how it felt. But then as I got informed, as I got deeper in the relationship, I realized that my firstborn son wasn't mine first. It was his. If I believe in the way I say I do, I
Mhm.
have to also look at it from the angle that
Yeah.
he wasn't mine to take ownership of like that truly. Like he was God's. And so if God says, hey, no, he didn't need you as a dad right now. So I had to take it all at full face value and realize like that's not how it works. And God isn't punishing me for the things that I did as a soldier. He's not punishing me for the things that I did cheating on my wife. These are consequences of life. There's consequences in my marriage.
Yeah.
There's consequences in my emotions if left unchecked, but God isn't authoring good and bad in my life based off of obedience to Him or submission to Him like a bully would. But
Mm.
I deserve a lot worse. I don't know.
So what's your opinion on, and not to go off track,
Well,
but,
no worries.
and maybe it's because the stuff that I've seen or been through personal, whatever. When you see the signs that say, "Pray for so and so," and that's all cool and fine,
Hmm.
but it's, "Well, will praying for this person make the outcome any better than me not praying for this other child on the other side of the world that has nobody putting up signs for them," or this sort of thing, and I could see praying to strengthen an individual's faith, like them praying, but the solicitation of prayers always kind of gets me because I almost feel like it's a weird commercialization of grief. But then
Yeah.
maybe it feels good for the parents and stuff to actually put that in and have it recognized. And, maybe that's a horrible way to think about it, but that's
Hmm.
just, my point of view on it, so
I feel like you're actually closer to the Christian faith, genuine faith, than you realize because you're right.
I mean, I
There's
was brought up Episcopalian, I just decided not to
so
do it.
so believe it or not, like, and I'm probably not the most popular opinion, but having somebody pray for somebody else simply because a tragedy happened in their life, like pray for those who are hurting, right? Or pray for those who are ill, pray for the broken, the downtrodden, and so on and so forth. Well, technically, that should be a part of your prayer every day. It's not a matter, and let's just say someone is a non-believer, right? And we go into like the New Testament era, and I'm praying to God that this person who does not believe in God, that God will heal whatever situation they had happen in their life. And if scripture clearly says, well, he's definitely not listening to the person who blatantly chooses not to believe in him, how am I going to force that upon that person? And how am I going to force God to do something about that? God is like, hey, I have so many other things. If he's omnipotent, right? Like all knowing, he's tracking. He's tracking that life has happened to someone else today. Evil is still in the world today. It still despises him. He still despises it. But me trying to author and negotiate for this person on the behalf of God. That's not quite how it works. He's more concerned about the individual soul, the individual person. And I can see how it can be offensive too. And so it's a nice thing to say. Like you said, it's commercialized. It's a product. Hope dealers, you know?
Said something before, and it was in a court system, and I said, something along the lines of what I usually say is I'm agnostic at best. And I was told by several people afterwards, don't say that, people will think ill of you. But they said it in a much more, harsh fashion. But if people really do believe in God and believe or whatever religion, it just seems, especially in a court system, we should be able to respect each other's beliefs. And I feel like even though we say, in God we trust and stuff like that, and we swear on a Bible when you go to court,
Mhm. Irony.
yeah, it's I don't know where the placement is of that stuff in there because again, we swear on a Bible to say, okay, you'll tell the truth, nothing but the truth, whatever. So help me God. But should religion be in the court system? I mean, and why should that affect, what's your opinion on that?
So, not to shameless plug, but we actually had a podcast episode about that.
I want you to see your podcast
Yeah,
on here because you got,
yeah.
a good little podcast going.
So, the whole God bless America thing that we do in this country. Last I checked, there is no specific religion that this country was mandated on, right? We had
Yeah.
some founding fathers who were atheists. We had founding fathers who were Protestant. But nowhere in the text does it say, like, this is a God fearing Judaism, God fearing, or Messianic Jewish God, which God, right?
Hmm.
And when you leave it open and you say you have the freedom of religion, but then it's imposed on you in a courtroom or in our justice system and all over our money, that's not the God of the Bible. I'm sorry to say. It's a product of commercialization of the church. No different than Catholicism in Rome, and being a Roman citizen, you had to be Catholic. And you got perks for being a Roman citizen. And so they were like, hey, let's tie the two together because now it's a win-win, right? Like if you're a Roman Catholic and you're a member of the church and you get the benefits of being a Roman citizen, let's just do that. And so I think what the hope is and what the aim is that now it's a fear-mongering tactic, really, right? Because you put your hand on the Bible and you lie, God's going to strike you down.
Yeah.
Where does that say that at in scripture? Nowhere. One.
And what do you do with the atheists or
Yeah.
whatnot that go in there? The truth should be the truth, but I don't know. I
And
don't know what the answer is for
because
them.
there's no law and morality, the
Mhm.
closest thing that the government can try to aim us to is a old book that's been around for a long time and say, "Hey, this has a lot of good morals in it. Maybe if you put your hand on that, it's gonna, we can
Yeah.
put all the morality on the same playing field." Because it's subjective. People will lie to protect themselves. People will tell the truth
Mhm.
when they feel that it's gonna redeem them
Yeah.
somehow. Whereas the Bible says, "Thou shalt not lie."
I'll say now I think it's just scary in general. Like even though I, don't take the Bible literally and I'm atheist agnostic, it depends on the day, but like to some people I think it's just part of the movies. Like they see that in the movies or they see that, in the
Mhm.
court and they're like, "Oh man, this is real." So it almost makes the situation realer. So I don't even know if I'm for taking it away because it's kind of part of, like, the process now,
Yeah.
It's more about like, making them realize that they are in a court system. Then I don't even think people realize that they're on the swearing on a Bible, those is
Mhm.
most of them, they're just like, "Oh, man, this is real now."
Yeah.
Makes it scarier, but
Well, I think
I don't know.
I think the scariest part about that thought process, though, for someone who does have a deep faith in God, it's making a mockery of God. Well, there's some things in scripture that talks about how God will not be mocked. The more you keep pushing that this is the evangelical thing and it's obviously not even about me, and you're just kind of co-signing me onto everything to make it seem like it's the right thing to do.
It's a scary weaponization.
Yeah, it's a weaponization of who I am, and he's not
Mhm.
gonna stand for it. And based off of biblical history, he's proven his case every time somebody gets a little too haughty.
Mm.
And so I just hope I'm not here in the event that God decides to do some old school plagues and we have all these freedoms. I don't think America would really want like the Bible, like the God of Israel as the nation's religion.
Well, I think we pick and choose. Well, we've had this discussion before because I was talking about sin, right?
Mhm.
Like, that's, if you okay, if you have, an abortion or I forget what we were talking which specific sins we were talking about, but it's like, okay, this sin is totally fine for these people to do, but this one you're going to hell. But I feel like a lot of the times people pick and choose from the Bible that makes it advantageous for themselves, and that is why it's hard for me to believe a lot of that Christian faith because it's like, well, can't you just be a good person and let people live like how they want to live?
Yeah,
It goes against the morality of or harms other people.
yeah,
There's certain general morals that we have decided to uphold as
yeah.
humanity does. So you can cheat, you can eat a bunch of food. That's what we're
Oh,
talking about.
gluttony, yeah.
Yeah, gluttony is fine. I mean, it's not fine, but it happens every day. Okay, I'm sorry, God, I did that. But the next day we're gluttons again. So how come that's okay, but some of the other ones aren't? But if you're going to accept the Bible for what it is, well, then these are all sins.
And see, and I think that's the hard catch-all, right? Because if I'm gonna answer scripturally based off of the faith
Mhm.
and say, "Yes," that's the answer, right? Is gluttony a sin? Yes.
Mhm.
Then I'm gonna say something that's gonna probably shock the listeners, and they're all the same in God's eyes. Meaning any one of those in and of itself will get you checked off the box as, "Sorry, you're not it. You can't come in," right?
Mhm.
So then you have this aspect of grace. Air quote of grace is, well, he forgives. God is love. Based off of our definition of love, that means that you can do whatever and he will always be there and forgive you. And so just live your life. And as long as you pray for forgiveness, then you're good to go. And so you have a sect of believers who live in this gray area where we're gluttons by night, forgiven by grace, because it says every day the sun rises that his grace is renewed. I think we pick and choose because society has told us there's certain things that are really bad. And so now we've kind of blended the two together. We said society says murder, steal, anything that can put you in jail, you probably shouldn't do. Most of those things actually line up with the
That's
10
how.
Commandments. All the other stuff, the white collar crimes, the evasion of taxes and different things. Well, I think that can get you thrown in jail too, but
Yeah, it's supposed
it's
to.
supposed to. But watching porn, that's legal. And so we kind of manipulate it to our gain because society says it's acceptable, but God said it's not.
So God says porn is bad?
God says lust is bad. All right,
So wait, is porn in the Bible?
no,
Please,
no,
thou shalt
maybe.
not watch porn.
Oh,
I need to
yeah.
read that thing again.
It's been updated. I don't know if you know this, but it's been updated. No, porn isn't in the Bible, but lust is. It's funny because Jesus actually had to do the same thing that we're talking about, right? The people have became so black and white. They were like, I know you'd say we shouldn't kill our neighbor. And Jesus is like, hey, no, that commandment, let me explain it to you a little bit more. It wasn't about murder. It was about the hate in your heart. Dang it. So now he's just addressed this huge spectrum of what we're not supposed to do. He says, thou shalt not hate thy brother.
Mhm.
Well, who is my brother? They're still trying to define like
Yeah.
where
Sisters.
can I get my grace? Where's the gray area?
What part of the Bible that you read do you think is misinterpreted the most or that is misused the most?
Ooh, dang, that's a good question. I think the most misused area of the Bible, only because it's the most rampant in America, is tithing. Believe
Mhm.
it or not, I think the other stuff, the second closest would be the area of grace, is misused really heavily. But I think
Why tithing?
so. God, when He establishes Israel, He sets apart a people group, right?
Mhm.
And so it's not just the physical Israel from 1940; it's a people group,
Mhm.
right? And He gives them this huge list of things of what they can and can't do, because that's how they were going to be set apart from everybody else in the world, right? After the whole Egyptian Moses thing, he's like, hey, let me dress you guys up and show the world who my people are. So he gives all these instructions. Then you have these tribes. And so every tribe kind of had their own thing that they were to do in their community. Well, in that communities was these dudes called Levites. And so they were the priests, Levitical priests or Levites, right? And so for them, they had no jobs. All the other tribes had jobs to do. The Levites' only job was to pray, to spend time with God, and to like do these things for on the behalf of the people. This is all pre-Jesus stuff. This is super Old Testament. You could look at a Levite and be like, you don't even do nothing. We're out here sowing seeds and picking crops. And God said in his commands that you are to give a 10% to the Levites of everything that you have. Because, like, whether it was food, clothes, water, it was that stuff. You were to take care of them as well as the foreigner and the widows. Their job was solely to represent man before God. and they were
Mm.
set apart additionally to be super holy, right? Like, so the community was supposed to take care of them because they're, asking for forgiveness on your behalf, doing all the sacrifices, all the things pre Jesus. The New Testament talks about giving, being a cheerful giver. The tithing was a Jewish thing. And in America, 90% of the churches don't even reference our faith as a Jewish thing. There's no Jewish connotation to it. But that was super old school, super about Levites. Yes, you should give, but not in the way we do it today. Church should not be synonymous with money. And it is not called for. And it's not written anywhere in the Bible like, thou shalt build me a nice building to have
Yeah.
people come and pray with stained glass. You got to have the stained glass. You need the cross in there somewhere too.
Hey, staring at that stained glass was the only thing that got me through some of those church things.
Yeah.
I will not knock the stained glass. I'm like, let me look at this
Oh, look, it's
image
so pretty.
for
It's
3
so
hours.
yeah, yeah, no, yeah.
So, what's your take on the other religions then? Right, like everything from Buddhist, Wiccans to all of these different
They're all
things.
going to hell. No, I'm just okay. Well, maybe.
If they're
I
good
don't know.
people, if they're
I
good
don't know,
people.
right? And I think that's the cool thing that Christians need to get over themselves with. You don't know if somebody's going to hell or not.
I'm just saying there's thousands and thousands of different
Yeah, it is.
religions, so
There's
it's
and there's
odd to me that,
72. I want to
this
say,
one is the only one that's good, because then that's a very low percentage of people that end up going to, quote
yeah.
unquote heaven. To
Hmm.
me, quote unquote heaven, to you,
Yeah. No,
very.
I totally get that. And I think your numbers are super accurate because like the way scripture describes it is not like it's not the majority that goes. The percentage is small.
But
Right?
what about these tribes that have no idea
I know,
about the
right?
Bible? Like, what happens to them?
It's wild because the Bible talks about them too. And in my personal opinion, if you are, we got a whole bunch of different denominations, even within the
Mhm.
Protestant faith. You have Catholicism, which is its own thing, Buddhists, Muslims. What happens to all
Yeah.
these people? God talks about it a little bit in the New Testament in Romans. In your mind, somewhere, there's a sense of morality and there's a sense of this thing that says, I probably shouldn't go around eating babies. Like, that's not a natural thought process for even the Congo folks. I don't know. They have a law out there,
Some
I'm
of them,
sure.
castrate their women and stuff, and
Yeah.
that's just part of it.
Mhm.
But that would, you would think it would go against the morality of at least the general public of the
Yeah.
US.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean,
And
would that
so
mean that they would go to hell because that's part of their cultural norm that they've been brought up with?
yeah, and I think the hard answer for me is I don't know.
Don't you think you were given a huge advantage because you were born in the right place at the right
Man,
time? Like
yeah. I
that.
believe I believe I was given a huge advantage, even though what we have here is really flawed. At least it kind of gets you close. But I think with that advantage comes a very big disadvantage. No one cares.
Misinterpretation?
Yeah, no one cares in America if you believe in Jesus, right? Like,
I don't know. I've been ostracized or maybe, a little bit.
no, but what I mean by that
I
is,
mean, I haven't been hung
yeah,
or,
right. Like,
kill,
yeah, nobody's
burned at
getting
the stake.
lynched over not believing in Jesus.
Well, these past, 100 years, but
Present day, no one really could care less if you believe in Jesus or not, as long as you keep it to yourself and you don't try to convert me, right? Whereas in Iran, if you believe in Jesus, you could die by butter knife. I've seen someone be beheaded by a Swiss Army knife before, and it's not pretty.
little one or a big one?
The little one,
How do you do it with a little one?
they
How do you cut
saw.
the cord?
They just kind of stab over and over again until they get it all the way off.
It's
Yeah, it's
hard to
pretty
see how
bad.
you would get that done.
Yeah, it's just I think it's kind of designed, and not the little micro one. I just
That's
thought
what
about
I'm
what you
thinking
said.
of. I'm thinking of like the little one that
No,
like,
I'm
how
talking
do you
about
do
the
it?
normal size one,
Okay, alright,
but
so your
not
whole
like a huge
like a
one.
3-inch one is the
Yeah,
normal size.
yeah, not like the normal size one.
Okay, alright, that
Um,
makes a little more sense because I was picturing the really, really small half-inch.
no, 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 like a normal size one. I
Okay,
thought about
alright,
it
alright.
as I was talking. That would
Now
be
now
pretty
I'm
brutal.
picturing it a little better.
Yeah,
Okay, alright.
yeah, and so that's pretty rough to
Yeah,
see and
yeah,
witness, but over there, when you profess your faith, like, that's what that means. You're an infidel. Literally, death is at your door. Sadly, I think that could be coming towards America in some way, shape, or form, especially in this current political people are gonna get tired of this
yeah, it's
whole
extreme.
thing, the evangelical, anti-everybody, it's coming, but the disadvantage in America is you can get comfortable with just church. They can't get comfortable with just church in the rest of the world. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah,
not cool in Pakistan. Like, I'm naming countries, Pakistan, Iran, Afghanistan, everything in the Middle East, including China. It's not cool to be a Christian. You can't walk around with a "What would Jesus do" shirt. In
mhm,
America, it's commercialized sold product that
yeah.
really has no consequence. And so the disadvantage of being here is that though I believe in Jesus, it costs me nothing,
Mhm.
whereas in these other places, it costs them everything. And so in that
Freedom that we take
disadvantage,
for granted.
y-
We
in
don't
that
realize it.
disadvantage comes all types of gray areas. And
Yeah.
that's why you have those that pick the sins they want to choose to do and not. Because so what? That's why you got cussing pastors. You got stripping deacons. You got, name a thing. We
Yeah.
can justify it. You got pedophiles, there's no consequence. How many Catholic popes in Iran have been molesting boys there? Well, there are no Catholic popes
I was
there.
gonna say, I'm like, "Wait, I'm confused," 'cause
There's
like
no priest there, right? Like there's no that faith is not accepted.
Yeah.
Now granted, I'm sure Islamic, I've seen the
Yeah.
other side of that too, but you know what I mean? Like there's no consequence here. And so you really got to try hard to be righteous in a place like this because it's easy to slip into temptation everywhere.
I'd say there's social consequence to a minuscule degree compared
Mhm.
to other countries. Place I used to work, eh, it was almost like a group that would look out for one another, it is because they all went to the same church and they were all
Yeah.
and if you didn't, then you were almost shunned. Shunned to a very light degree, not like other countries shunned, but,
Yeah.
it was you're not going to promote, you're not going to be able to do these certain things, and this is, the US. You would think that that
Mhm.
wouldn't happen here, but it does,
Oh, yeah.
and like I said, I've been told by people, like, Don't say you're agnostic," or "Don't say you don't believe in God," don't say these things because of things and people that won't promote or won't hire you because of it. So
Yeah.
I think that it exists. It's just accepted because it is so minor. We're not, doing those
Yeah.
horrible things that they're doing in other countries, but we're still not as great about it as we pretend to be. Like, oh, we're freedom and we're great and we can do these things, but we still really can't. We can't, and that goes the other way too. Agnostics or atheists looking down on people that do believe.
Mhm.
So I mean, I think it goes both ways in this country instead of just accepting people for their freedoms. Yeah, I wish people would have more conversations like this because I like this. This is fun for me. But people get so invested in, hey, I believe this and you need to believe this. But people should find their own way for their own beliefs
Yeah.
because otherwise it's kind of a moot point, right? Like it
Yeah.
doesn't, I mean, you can't bully somebody into believing what you believe because then they don't really believe it, or I guess
It's
they wouldn't
still a
even adhere to the
farce.
whole Christianity thing, right?
Yeah. And I think, that's being in this land of the free, home of the brave, you have the opportunity to believe what you want, right?
Yeah.
And we get so entitled these days with our belief systems, to the point that they said, hey, you can proselytize at work now, right? Like that had to be a law because it was that bad at some point.
Mhm.
And then we have this, a la carte methodology of Christianity. Like, how do you know the difference between a Presbyterian, a Southern Baptist, a regular Baptist, a Calvinist, an Episcopalian, or a Seventh-day Adventist? Which one actually is telling the truth? So if that
Mhm.
division is within the Christian community already,
Yeah.
how much greater are we causing a divide with all
Mhm.
the non-believers? We all want the right to self-govern, and that is what
Mhm.
God has given us the ability to do. In that self-governing, not only are we choosing self, but whatever is advantageous and benefits us and makes us feel good. Everybody's looking for the thing that gives them hope to keep going, and then when somebody kind of comes against that, and now you have the problem because now you're
Yeah.
competing and trying to challenge my hope. And if you win, oh no, that's gonna mess up how I've believed for however many years.
Yeah. You're right. Because if I could see if somebody's so invested in something and they're doing it, because it is their light at the end of the tunnel, and then you challenge it. Yeah, I
You
could
just
see
crap
how
on my
that
light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Get you, man, and now it's like this whole thing, right? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, man,
But
and
I would
people
think
don't
that
want
would only
that.
be that way, and I think it's not that way for you because you believe what you believe and you don't care if other people challenge it.
The hard part is that we're so egotistical sometimes that it's just like we're being challenged on our intelligence. And so it's a pride issue.
Whenever anybody asks me my thoughts on something, it's always gonna be based in science to a degree,
Yeah.
because that's something that can be proven over and over and over again. So if we erase all Bibles, get rid of them, or poof, all the Bibles are gone, science books will be rewritten the same way or researched the same way, but where will the Bible be coming from?
Ooh, that's
Where will
deep.
those words be coming from?
Yeah.
Will
Mm.
we all just be living blindly for a while, picking our noses, eating our boogers until Jesus comes,
Yeah.
whoever comes and somebody writes it again?
That's the beauty in this whole concept of the Bible. I think God's word will never go away. Like and it's shown itself not to have gone away thus far, right? Like I think
Yeah, but
it's
there's
almost
books
like
that
a
go on with
roach.
it.
And not to discredit God, so forgive me if this is wrong, but you understand the analogy here, God. But it's like roaches. You cannot
Mhm.
get rid of his word or what he's already stated.
So there has to have been some altering of it at some degree because I just don't trust men, and by men, I mean humanity, you know?
I would say dudes. I'm okay with that. Dudes are fickle. We talked about in the very beginning. Yes, dudes are sketchy. I agree with you. I do believe that the Bible has been manipulated over the years and is still being manipulated. Like there were some obvious things in scripture versions that have come out about the Bible. And then there's like the letter of the law and then the intent behind it, right?
Mhm,
And so I think when a true believer or a true inquisitor of the Lord, even if
mhm,
meaning non-believer, but just someone truly seeking after him, reads that word, whatever version they got, as long as it's not like some of these new age stuff, you'll find them. And then you'll start reading and you'll be like, let me get another version and just compare. I don't know why this happens, but we've gone through multiple versions of the Bible from King James, New Living Translation, all the ones, right? And we ended up at the Jewish complete Bible. And that's where we are today. I think some of the new age, new English translations try to like dumb it down and make it, and words mean things, right? God is love means something completely different to an American who uses love as loose to say, I love pink lemonade,
yep,
sour pink lemonade. So we use love so loosely, we
mhm,
don't really have a reverence for it. And
yeah,
so it's hard for us to grasp God's love. But
yeah,
then if you go all the way back to the Greek and all the way back to the Hebrew, and you realize that agape means something completely different. And
mhm,
then you have eros, which is a romantic type of love. And then you have like a ethos, which is like a friendly type of love. So when they spoke, they used very specific ways of saying the word love. For us, it's
yes, all love is
everything.
love.
And in that, you lose a lot of clarity on the context anyway.
I'll say the little bit the reason I don't say, I don't believe any of that stuff, and I call myself also, agnostic. The reason I teeter
Hmm.
on the edge isn't because I believe in some good being as much as it is I've seen some really bad ones.
Yeah.
And really bad things, and it's like there's something just fucking creepy with this person, or something's off, or this is just horrible. How could somebody do this? That sells me more than the goodness in people, for which I've seen far less in, firsthand rather. But then it goes also back to science, psychology, and also just bad choices, them choosing to do it. But it's that little that hair on the back of your neck, kind of just pure
Like
evil
that's
stuff. But
actually evil. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it's
not
the only
just
thing that
you had a
kinda
bad
would sell me
childhood.
on the religion part of
Yeah.
it, but,
I think that's
you
by
know.
design, believe it or not. And I'll get off my high horse of the Bible has an answer for that as well, even though this one does.
So the tarot cards, man, they got
Yeah,
answers
they
for
might have some answers too. It might be short lived, but they got answers. But
it's a
no,
big
yeah, we're in a yeah, it's a big day. Ouija board's got answers.
yeah,
Magic 8 Ball's got
yeah.
answers. You can
It's
get
all how you
answers from.
interpret it.
I'd advise against that anyway. In a fallen world where evil runs rampant, right?
Yeah,
Most Christians believe that's this spiritual battle happening between good and evil, the
mhm,
things you can see and the things you can't, right? And there were demon possessed people back in the old days. There's demon possessed people today. Like that hadn't changed,
like
right?
Exorcism of Emily Rose,
Yeah,
kinda.
like the scary stuff, right?
Yeah,
And we romanticize it and add the cinema behind it to kind of add that extra
mhm.
oomph. But it's easier to be afraid of something than it is to trust in something that's good, especially if the fear is tangible. And so I think when we witness the things that we witness in this life, we've witnessed the depravity of mankind and the ratchetness that lies in most human beings. And then we see the really evil one, the
Mhm.
one with the eyes that look just like empty on the back. It's a confirmation that these things exist, but it's also a confirmation of the state of humanity as a whole. It's it's an infection of sin. It's an infection of pride. It's an infection of everybody wants what they want. No one's happy with themselves and no one knows God, right?
Well, I'll say that, one, I guess to kinda close out, I always appreciate these conversations because I love them. It's a respectful exchange.
Yeah.
The way that both of us sees it is factual, and it's a fun way to converse about this. Secondly, I come from a place where I wish that I was religious.
Yeah.
It's not I don't hate upon religion unless they hate upon others.
Oh, is this that baptism
But
part where like you like the thumbnail, you're like getting baptized and you're like, I decided.
no, no, no. This is
Okay,
definitely not the
okay.
part. Technically, I've already been baptized though
Hey,
as
look
a
at there.
baby,
Some
so
people would say that's a guarantee regardless.
it's not, I wish that I could believe in it, and that there's people who get so pissed at me that I say this, but much like I wish that I could believe in Santa Claus, and I wish that I could believe in other things, because it would make life so much easier to be like, oh, hey, well, there is this thing. So it's not like coming from a place of screw all you guys. It's just something that I feel, and that it it's nothing that I can change.
Yeah.
It's not, I can't make myself, much like you can't make yourself worship a crayon. I know you weren't a Marine, but
Yeah.
that
Right.
just
That was a
can't.
dig. Yeah.
I
No, I get that.
It's not something that I can fathom. So, but I do respect those that have a religion in a respectful manner, and that use
Yeah.
it in that way to better themselves and better others and all that other good stuff. So, thank you
I'd
for
say
doing
that
that.
thank you for having me, one, but I think I want to let you know there's so much hope still, even in that statement. If you look at my history, though we didn't go too deep in it, there is no scientific hypothesis that would have said I would be where I am today in my relationship with the Lord. The evidence wouldn't line up. Like,
Yeah.
and even though, even as a psychology and theology major, double major, I can say that even my life circumstances wouldn't say, oh, he found Jesus. Like, it just doesn't make sense. But it has to do with submitting and letting go of oneself. Those believers would call it dying of someone, nailing yourself to the cross of Christ type of thing. But when you get to that point, when you finally let go and you allow that in, when it becomes real for you, and if that thought pops up and you chase that thought, I thought I would still be cursing, drinking, smoking, doing all the things that I was doing when I was 20 for the rest of my life. And then now I don't curse. Now I don't watch scary movies anymore. And I would be a liar to tell you that buying things that I wanted was not fun, or
Mhm.
smoking wasn't fun, or drinking and having sex outside of marriage and watching porn wasn't fun. I would be a hypocrite. Something inside of me, outside of me, has taken those things from me, and I can't explain it. And it's not by choice. But then one day that went away. One day the desire to watch porn went away, which is weird. So how can it go away? Yeah, no, seriously, thank you for having me. And if you made it here and you're still listening, as I'd like to say on my podcast, make sure you definitely subscribe to Tess's Half Seriousness, because I think you're going to have some really good content and good people on there and good perspectives. And sometimes life is about sharing perspectives, because then it opens up your own insight into how you deal with things. I think the insight that you're providing is really cool. But yeah, and if y'all dug the Christian talk, you can go check out What Then Say You.
Yeah, but say it
That's
again, because every time you say it, I'm
it
like, wait,
sounds all
what's the
old English,
name of
right?
the what's
What
the name of the
then
podcast?
say you?
What then say you?
Yeah, what then say you? Like an old English way of saying, what do you think? And that's a
Keith
place,
Barnes.
yeah, and it's a place where we kind of just talk about things you won't talk about in the church, a lot of unpopular opinions
Oh, those are my
about
favorite.
things, weird things, stuff your pastor probably wouldn't approve of. But they're all biblical.
Well, thank you, and maybe we'll have another podcast where we talk about abortion.
Heathens, y'all going to hell. No, I'm just joking.
Probably, or I'm there.